scenario is resident comes back with a prescription, and the nurse can certainly enter in that order, and I'll walk you through that process. Or my recommendation is, if you're going to enter in the order, you may as well just fax it over to the pharmacy and let them enter it in, and save yourself the time. So, but let's talk through the first one. Those two scenarios make sense to you guys before I even start walking through the process. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the first scenario. Pharmacy got the order from the doc, they entered it, and I come to this page and I can see that Cheryl has a new order for some Tylenol. I want to come in here and I want to verify that order. And verification is, does this order make sense? I know that she's been complaining of joint pain. I know that she has osteoarthritis, and the doc has given her a PRN order for Tylenol, Q4 hours up. As I look a little bit more closely, the doc also wants me to document her pain prior to administration. So when she requests this, I need to document, well, what is, her pain on a scale of 1 to 10 or whatever the range is. I also see that the doc wants to determine the effectiveness post-administration and what is her pain once it's been administered and metabolized. This makes sense to me. If I put something that looks crazy here, like, maybe 325 milligrams, and maybe he was asking for, 12 tabs, I'd probably say, let me call the pharmacy. This looks like it could be a typo. I can't imagine that he'd want her to have 12 tablets Q4. So very, very just going to look at it for accuracy. Some of the fields that are not filled in are just not required fields. But again, if you recall from previous demos, anything with a red asterisk is a required field. You would dictate to us, or the pharmacy would dictate to us or to you what fields absolutely need to be completed. One of your requests, Mandy, was that you wanted to see about tracking the quantity of medication. Now, typically you're going to track narcotics. This is a legend drug. I'm tracking it anyway because some states do require that you track legend drugs. So I just went ahead and added that in. I am saying, yes, I do want to track the quantity. This is the quantity that I have on hand when the medication is delivered to the community. Everything looks copacetic. I'm going to go ahead and approve this. And as I said, if something wasn't, something didn't jive, I would not approve. I'd be on the horn contacting the pharmacy. Hey, there's no reason for her to be on 12 tablets, Q4 hours, or whatever that is. Please go in and modify this order or recheck it against the original order. Make the modifications, resubmit it, and then I'll approve it at that point. That's how that would go. So now that this order has been approved, I can go to the resident, specifically to that resident's MAR, or I can go to it from a whole house perspective and look at the EMAR. That order, because everything with our EMAR is in real time, is going to be listed here and ready for administration. Now, let's talk a little bit about the MAR. The MAR does have a legend, so lots of things are going to be color-coded, or there's going to be icons that represent specific type of functionality. So all of your PRN orders are going to be brown. This order is written for Q4 hours. We have some safeguards involved in managing this medication so that you don't give the medication too frequently. I'll walk you through that. But other things to note, the order is here, the dose, the reason for it. And then if I was not familiar with acetaminophen, I didn't know what it was, I could click on the hyperlink here, and that's going to navigate them to, or in this case, not. It would ordinarily navigate you to Medline Plus, which would give you some information. Let's just see if it's a little glitch. There we go. Medline Plus, and now I'm going to learn everything that I need to about acetaminophen. Like, why is it prescribed? What are some of the side effects? Things that I need to be concerned about as it relates to this this resident. This is going to eliminate the need for your drug guides that are typically published on an annual basis. This connection, this hyperlink, is updated every 30 to 60 days. So it's a formulary. You're going to have access to that information. If you're trying to rely on your drug guide that, like I said, is only published on an annual basis, you're probably not going to see any of the new drugs in that listing. Another thing that I want to highlight on the MAR is this little sideways paper clip. This is going to be between you and the relationship with your pharmacy of choice, but I recommend that you ask them to upload a copy of the order, because if I'm going to medicate this resident, as the nurses probably are going to want to see that order. And they can click on that little paper clip, and then the order and all of the instructions that should match everything that's in this box is there. They can verify it, and they can sign off on it and feel good that, yes, they're given the medication as ordered as well. Any specific drug information is also going to be highlighted. You know, it's classification.
Can I just stop you for a second? On the attachment of the drug order, I think that's really fantastic. So what do they do when we fax over like a complete set of move-in orders and there's 15 orders? How do they show just the picture of that order underneath there?
So if you're sending 15 at once, it's going to be one order per medication. So they would have the Tylenol order would be attached to this. And of course, my other scenarios, nobody has been kind enough to attach drug order.
So is it just like a scanned copy or a screenshot?
That's exactly what it is. It's a scanned copy.
Okay.
That's all this is. I uploaded this, and you'll see this when I actually walk through entering in an order. It's just a scanned copy of that order. It's saved as an attachment, and then I upload it to the order. Yeah.
Okay. So for instance, if we send over move-in orders and there's 15 lists of meds, do they, and I know I'm kind of drilling down into the details here, so we can get out of the weeds here in a sec, but do they just do a screenshot of that specific order, or will they show the entirety of the page with all 15 orders on it?
Yeah, because oftentimes I know exactly what you're saying. They're going to come home. They're going to come home with a list of all of their meds on one sheet with all of the instructions on it, right?
Right.
You can choose to have them crop it individually. You can have them upload that same page for every med order that's on it and highlight the one that's specific to this particular drug. Or you can ask them to give you an individual prescription for, for the actual drug. I think that's going to be a conversation, because I could slice and dice that 10 different ways. And if it were me, I would probably say, you're probably not going to get them to give you one individual prescription. You already know where I'm going. They don't have time. Like, we don't have time. They're going to want to give you one copy, and I would have them highlight it.
Right. Well, and what I'm thinking too is the doctor's only going to sign one time on that piece of paper, and so I would want to see the physician's signature attached to the order, so I'd have the whole thing up there. That's kind of where I was going with this. That would be incredible for when we're trying to verify orders or try to figure out where like our process unraveled. If we had the original order attached to every single order, that would be a huge time saver for us.
Oh, wait until we get to some of the reports. There's really some very, very time-saving reports that are going to be able to help you with that, flags and this, that, and the other thing that can be associated with it, to really help mitigate risk and minimize the risk for med errors. Trust me, I really do love working with this system for some of the functionalities, and this happens to be one of them. This happens to be another one of my favorites, because, like I said, all of my drug guides when I'm working are outdated, and I can never find the drug that I'm looking for. The order itself is written for Q4. If Cheryl is complaining of pain and requests this medication, I can come and document on it. But remember, the doc said, hey, listen, if she starts medication, you need to tell me what exactly, her pain was at that time and why. Those are those instructions, like, oh, she was complaining of joint pain or whatever. So she had increased joint pain here and requested this medication. And I'm going to save the data. What's going to happen is, probably before I even get through this explanation, this will turn yellow on me, but I just want to talk about some of the safeguards. This is written for Q4. AM, my initials, Andrea Morgan administered this at 2:19 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Her pain was at a 10. Because it's written for Q4, technically I should not be given this medication any sooner than 6:19. When I attempt to do that, it's going to be redlined. hey, Andrea, slow down. It's too soon, right? Now, of course, if I have another order for breakthrough pain, obviously I could go through that, or if I have the authority to override it with permissions, I could also do that. But this is designed to say, listen, stop, think about what you're doing, and hopefully it will prompt somebody to say, hey, wait a minute, it's too soon, and they won't administer it because it is too soon. That's the first safeguard. Once because the order was also written that, hey, I want to know what the pain is at the time of administration. I also want to know the effectiveness and what her pain is post-administration. I've scheduled this for a follow-up, and it will turn the screen yellow, indicating that, hey, you have more work to do with this order. That means when I see something yellow, I have follow-up. That means I need to go in and do some more work. That means I have to determine the effectiveness, or and in this case, we also want to know the pain. This could be that, maybe some of the follow-up is a vital sign. It could be O2 stat. It could be anything that the doc has written in the order. In this case, it's specifically around pain. So, yes, in fact, it was effective, and her pain, it brought it down to a 2 when I assessed her. When I save this data, now the next person that is assigned to this resident can see that Andrea gave it at 219. She was at an all-time high. It was effective because it brought her pain down to a 2. We're good to go. I can administer the next time at around 619 should you require it or request it. So just at a glance. Now keep in mind, it doesn't usually turn yellow in 60 seconds. I just changed the time. It usually will default to 20 or 30 minutes. However, I would caution you to, if this is a brand new drug, to flex that time to about 10 or 15 minutes, because if she does have a reaction to that, you don't want to wait 30 minutes, because by then she's in anaphylaxis. And, so with new drugs, I just say to the nurses, just be mindful of it. It's a brand new drug. This is her first time taking it. Go ahead and do your follow-up in 10, 15 minutes in case she starts getting a rash or itchy throat or anything like that. And, take action from there. But all other drugs that they are consistently taking, scheduled, or something that they've already been on, usually will default to about a 20-minute, 30-minute follow-up if the doc writes the order that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, we're specifically talking about Cheryl, so I'm just going to stay with this resident just for a minute and go to her health record, because I want to show you some of those things that probably only nurses get excited about. With this, I want to look at some of the reports that are associated. This is specific to her. So because everything is in real time, that means that you're going to save probably about 40 to 60 hours of man time every month, because there's no end of month reconciliation. Every time I make a change to the order, it's updating her month. The POS is also being updated at that time. So now you're going to be able to come, if I needed to send this over to her doc, I can go right to the POS, and it's going to indicate all of her current medications, and Tylenol is listed here. Because we're tracking the quantity of it, the doc is also going to be aware of what she has left on hand too. So if this was in fact a narcotic and they have to rewrite this script, every 30 days or whatever the frequency is, they're going to say, yep, it's getting low. Let me go ahead and rewrite that script for that resident, because I can see that she's down to 7 or 14 or whatever that number is. So that also gives them an idea of where any meds that are being quantity tracked, what the resident actually has on hand, and then they can sign off on this. And I believe that within our next version, they'll even be able to do this electronically. So POS updated. MAR is going to be updated as well. I can look at the summary for this resident. While we're in here, we may as well. For the month of September, I'm going to look specifically just for her. And some of the things on the summary will include current medications as well as the pain scale and when that medication was administered. Likewise, the last thing I'll show you in terms of any report here is the emergency transport. That actually happens to be one of my favorites. So if this resident does need to go out to the emergency department, your emergency transport sheet is a combination of both base sheet and your med sheet. And so now you don't have to make a separate copy of the EMR. That's going to give them all of the information to include the last time that the drug was administered. So I know all of the ER nurses would love you for that. So questions on the first scenario. Now, certainly I have some other meds that I could approve, but does that make sense? The process, order sent to the pharmacy enters it in. I then approve it, verify the accuracy, comes to the community, I administer it, and these are just some of the things associated with the MAR. As I said, some of those safeguards, quantity tracking, etc. Make sense?
Yep, well, on my end, yep.
Okay, great. I'll be advised too, I don't know if you noticed that the notifications tab also went from 0 to 2. This is really helpful, especially with PRNs. I have it currently configured that anytime a PRN is utilized, that I want to be notified, so that if they do tend to use it, more often than not, 3 consecutive days, 5 consecutive days, whatever your magic number is. Now I've got some documentation on hand. I probably would be calling the doc to ask them to make that a scheduled dose because she's taking it just that frequently, if that's your process protocol. All right, let's go to the resident that had the medication that was not completed. So somebody obviously started this order and didn't complete it. So I just need to make some edits. That's how you're going to know if an order is incomplete. I think there was a question around that. How do I know if it's incomplete? It's not going to show up on the MAR. It's going to be flagged like, hey, somebody started this, didn't complete it. So you can see that she's on this amoxicillin, but you know what? It's a routine, not a PRN, and she's going to get 1 tablet BID daily. And in this case, we're doing 8 and 5. I've already scheduled that. No follow-up, but if the doc did want me to take any vitals or any type of weight, blood pressure, anything like that, I could add that information here. Likewise for post-administration, I can do the same thing, and this is where you would schedule the amount of time. After how many minutes or after how many hours do you want me to go back and follow up on this particular medication? And like I said, if it's brand new, limit it. If you want to determine the effectiveness, you can do that as well, but not likely with amoxicillin. Once that information is entered in, then I can save it. But before I do that, let me just add a copy of the image anyway, because I do have the prescription. And so I've scanned it already. And I'm going to find that prescription, open it up, and this is AMOX 500, and start my upload. Close this out. Now that the order is complete, if I go to Sharon, the amoxicillin is going to be there for me to start administering. Again, same thing. Copy of the prescription is going to be here. If I'm not familiar with amoxicillin and things that I need to be aware of, I can click on the hyperlink. You can see the time. It's already past 8. I just put that order in at 2:30 so they know that there's no med error here. It can only start at 5 o'clock today, and then it will carry on tomorrow, 8 and 5, 8 and 5. Let me show you how to enter an order from the community level. Just select whatever resident from the drop-down list. And let me find somebody that's actually living here. And then the order type. whether it's medication, treatment, vital labs, informational, et cetera, you can select the type. In this case, it's a medication order. He came back with a prescription. I received it transcribed. If this was a telephone or verbal order, you will have the ability to select that the redact was performed. So that, again, that's just another safeguard. Andrea got a verbal order. She read it back to the doc as she wrote it down. He confirmed it. Therefore, there's less likely to be an issue with the order. And then we'll just do Motrin here. I start typing in the medication and select from the drop-down list. A lot of the information is going to self-populate. This is going to be oral. I do want them to dispense it as written. If you don't want to dispense it as written because they have other parameters, you can also select no. Choose the diagnosis associated with it. And maybe just continue. Here's where you can track the quantity. Yeah, we'll track it. We'll say he has 60 on hand. And then I start adding my directions. We'll make this a PRN. They can get 2 tablets, 4, and any additional notes. You know, I think you had questioned whether or not you know, they chose other non-pharmacological approaches to managing before they administered that PRN. Now, that's probably better suited with an order like Ativan or, you know, or Xanax or something. But if you did want to put those instructions here, you could, you know, that they, I don't know, that they tried to redirect the resident. They did whatever it was that you wanted them to try before they actually that medication. Those additional notes still there. And again, as I said, you can choose any follow-up or post-follow-up. Pain, effectiveness, pain again. Seconds. Save it. And everything looks right. 2 tablets, Q4. And 1. Oh. And I can also again attach that image. Motrin, and then start my upload. And once I save this, order is now available for administration. That was Henry, was it? Was it Henry? I don't remember. Oh, let's see who it was.
Hey, good, Karen. How's it going? Awesome.
Yeah, it was Henry. I can then go to his MAR. Figure out why his medication is not showing up here. Oh, there it is. And the same thing, medication, drug information, copy of the prescription, and then the ability to administer it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the reports, as I said, that are associated with those orders. These are all of the reports that you can run as it relates to medications. And the quantity tracking is probably the one that people know from the beginning. We'll do it for the whole community so that any resident that currently is on a medication that's being tracked will be listed here. It's not going to take the place of the count. Nothing ever would, but it is going to certainly speed up the process. I should see what the original count was, what was administered, and what I have on hand, what my balance is. I take this balance in and back it up to the back of the bingo card, and it should match each and every time. And then I can sign off as the nurse going off duty, and the nurse is coming on duty accepting the shift can sign off here as well. This is also going to be available electronically in electronic version.
Whatever you want to do, send just spend the money, and then we'll note it on the very
Summaries can be end-dated orders, when things were entered, ended, classifications report if you need to see who, I want to see all of my residents on the anti-coags or what have you. I mean, there's so many reports. For the refill report, who's due when. Of course, a lot of these reports are dependent on information that you enter in. So if you don't enter certain information in,
and then Janet, her apartment, is that?
Hey, Andrea. Not sure if anybody else is having audio problems.
Yeah, I can't hear her.
Yeah, I lost her too.
yeah.
Or
Let me send her a chat message. Hang on.
Hey, sorry about that. Call dropped. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now, I think.
Okay. Yeah, the call dropped. Sorry about that. But as I was saying, the reports are only as good as the information entered in. If you don't enter in specific information in certain fields, you're not going to be able to extract certain information when running a report. So any questions? I mean, I don't know that there's, I mean, I feel like EMAR is EMAR is EMAR, but any questions on anything that I've shown? Anything that you wanted to see that it didn't show?
I've got a quick question here. Is there a centralized area for notifications and, you know, hey, there's a new med to be reviewed, or something's coming up in quantity, your quantity number's down and you better reorder, or
Yeah, so that's going to be your CIT. That's intelligence template. I don't know if you recall that from like previous demos, but you can set alerts with your CIT, and you're going to be talking about either your scheduled events or your triggered events. So your scheduled events, hey, I want to know when a medication is coming up for reorder, or you know, they're about to expire. You have to set those alerts again based on the information that you receive when the order is received or when it's received in the community. And anything outside of that, like in terms of like parameters, maybe a missed dose, a refusal or whatever, you can set up notifications so that they come here to the notifications tab. It'll alert you in real time, and then you can address it in real time. Your scheduled events are going to act more like your Outlook calendar. You'll be notified of this in advance of it happening so that it doesn't expire. So you might want to set your notifications that, you know, for 7 days in advance or 14 days in advance or something like that.
So do you have to set your notifications for each order, or is there an area to go to see how your med passes are going, the progression, if you will, or if you missed a pass, or you missed a resident or an order that are...
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you miss an order, as I said, these are color coded, so anything that's missed is going to be highlighted in pink, right? So I shouldn't even leave. I'd like to think that when somebody is scrolling through their orders, if they scroll through, I kind of see who's on what. If I see anything pink, it's going to be an indication that I missed something, and I have the opportunity to either go back and course correct. But in this case, the user is locked out because you guys will set your parameters usually an hour before, hour after. So I give it as early as 7, as late as 9. And if I don't hit those parameters, it's going to turn pink. And that should be my flag that, hey, you didn't, or you can set, like I said,
So,
a notification.
so maybe let's look at it like this. If I'm the RCC or if I'm the manager for the med tax, what checks and balances are in place so that I can go in and I can monitor the progress of the med pass at a glance? So maybe I've got a med tech who's been with us for 30 days, and I want to verify that everything's going according to plan. Is there a way that I can check at a glance to see where they're at with their med pass without having to dive directly into every resident's MAR?
Where they're at with a med pass, meaning what? Like how much they've completed of their med pass without looking at it?
Or to see if there's missing assignments, or if there's gaps in their pass. How can I verify that the med tech has completed 100% of their assignments by the time that it's due?
Yeah, I'm going to say there's a possibility that you could do that through the executive dashboard. You might be able to set up a dashboard for that. Let me just see if that's one of the otherwise.
Thank you, Mandy. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Sorry.
I'm sorry, was somebody saying something?
No, what Mandy was asking was exactly what I was trying to say.
Okay, gotcha. Let me just see. I'm just making this up. So, and type in progress notes. And I don't have every single missed orders by type. I feel like this might be one. Type distribution might be one. Just see.
Some other, one-on-one calls around them, so it works out perfect for me. It works out good for you.
So, I mean, you could go to your dashboard and it would indicate the date and the time missed. That's about the best that I can think of. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't an easier way, but usually the executive dashboards are the way. At a glance, that's the way we look at it, and it's in real time. So I can see here 9-2 was the last medication that Cheryl, or 9-4 or whatever today's date is, 9-5, sorry. That was missed, that wasn't signed off on. This is going to be probably the easiest way that you can see in real time, something that wasn't. Otherwise, you would have to actually run a report for that.
I've got another question here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Is there an area where the med aids can load vitals, weights, maybe a specific weekly ADL task, showering, for example,
they can do that in CareStream, or they can go right to the Vitals tab and enter in any of their weights, whatever the frequency is, whatever vital sign it is that you're monitoring, height, weight, blood pressure, pulse ox, etc. They can enter it in there, or in CareStream if you actually make that a task. If you want vitals monitoring, you can create a task, and they would see that as a task for them in their CareStream.
So if we wanted to set up a monthly weight check for each of the residents, how would we go about and do that?
That's going to be part of your assessment. You're going to go to the assessment. Too quick on the click here. Let's see. Let me bypass this. You can go right into care plans or service plans. And add an item. That's what I would do. And so maybe this is weight. Vital signs. And then I would make watch, observe, notify, what have you. Add this. And then I would create my action item. Whatever that one is. What are you doing? Blood pressure, weight, fever.
I think I see what you're doing here. So if it's a routine service, it looks like it needs to be a part of the care plan in order for it to show up as a task on a med pass. Okay, I see what you're doing.
Yeah, right. And you do have to be specific though around the time. So you want this at a specific time, and if you just want it once a month, then you're going to have to select, the monthly, the weekly, the daily, whatever it is. But yeah, once I save it and activate it, then it will show up once a month on whatever day it is you choose, the 15th of every month. It'll be in CareStream for the caregiver to document that task.
Right. And I'm assuming we can then run reports out of that. So if we wanted to compare everybody's weights over time with the entered through, we'd be able to do that.
Yeah, so you can run in all vitals, you can look at allergies, you can pretty much look at a vital signs chart, vital history trend, weight loss analysis. I mean, anything that you enter in, you're going to be able to run a report and extract that information.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But I just want to get back to this because I can't let certain things go. I want that missed orders by type in a glance for you too, because I want to see it without having to have an alert set. Because once you set the alert, like you could do this and it would be for any resident that has a medication that is outside, that hasn't been administered within the parameter. So that really is, I would say, in my opinion, the way that I would want to see it. Any resident get a notification. Now, that could become overwhelming because depending on how many residents and how many meds that they're on and how fast or slow your med techs or nurses are, you may end up getting overwhelmed, or this is going to be your at-home. If that helps, or you can quickly run a report too, if you don't want to have to do that.
Thank you for letting me know.
That help, or that makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
All right. Other questions, thoughts? Paul, Will, anybody want to add anything or want me to highlight or show something that you think is important for them to be aware of that maybe
I think we pretty much went through the things in Mandy's email, and obviously some that came along from the additional questions, but I don't have anything in particular.
Okay. All right. Well, Paul, I'm going to turn it back over to you. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying it looks good. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. No worries. My pleasure. Turn this over to Paul for any parting words.
Yeah, I just